So our office is making sure is responsible for making sure that everyone adheres to NCAA rules, and every NCAA institution around the country has people responsible for doing just this. This is not just a Michigan thing. This is any NCAA institution is responsible for this. So there's 5 things that I want you guys to remember that I'm going to talk to you about today. First thing, academics. Academics is critically important. You guys got to know, obviously you're here, you're working on your game, and that's important. You heard Shane Battier talk about a lot of the things that you have to do in order to be prepared for the next level. One of those things is to focus on your academics, because that can bring your career to a halt before it even starts. In order to be able to compete at the Division I level, you have to have 16 core courses that you've completed. That's your English, your math, your science, your social science, all of those basic fundamental classes you have to complete. You have to have them, you have to have all 16 of those core courses done during your high school career. You have to achieve a certain GPA in those classes. When the NCAA looks at your GPA, they're not looking at your overall GPA. If you did well in electives and phys ed and things like that, they're taking all of that out. All they're counting when they calculate your GPA is those core classes. So make sure that you know that you're on track to complete those. If you haven't already, you should be sitting down with a high school guidance counselor and talking to them about what your goals are, making sure that you're on track to meet those requirements. There's a great resource online. If you've never looked at it before, I'd strongly encourage you to check it out. It's on the NCAA website. It's called the Guide for College-Bound Student Athletes. And it will take you through all of those requirements that you have to meet. The Division I level is at 16 core courses. The Division II level has been at 14 and is now going to 16. So if you want to play either Division I or Division II ball, you're going to need to have those 16 core courses completed. So it's important that you understand that. The other aspect of your academic eligibility is going to be your SAT or ACT test. You have to take that test. You have to do well on it. You have to make sure that based on your GPA, there's a sliding scale. So the better your GPA is, the lower the test score you're going to need. The worse your GPA is, the higher the test score you're going to need. So make sure that you're focusing on that test, that you're preparing, that you know where you need to be in terms of where your GPA is and what kind of test score you need. So that's academics. Second thing I want to talk to you about is recruiting. The recruiting process is complicated. There's a lot that happens during recruiting. There's a lot of rules that apply to recruiting, and it's important for you to understand some of the restrictions that the coaches are under when it comes to the recruiting process, because it will help you as you're going through that process. There's rules about when coaches can contact you. Until you're a junior in high school, they can't call you. Once you hit your junior year, they can start to call you once a month. As you get to your senior year, they can call you more often. But you need to understand that at any point in time, you can call a coach. If you have questions, if you want to talk to them, you can call a coach. But if you call and leave a message, don't expect them to call you back necessarily. They might not be able to. So it's really incumbent upon you to take the initiative, take control of the recruiting process, find out what's important to you, know what questions you want to ask, and make sure that you're getting the information you need to make the decision about what college is right for you. The other thing to keep in mind about the recruiting process is that there's a lot of people involved in recruiting, and particularly in men's basketball these days. It's been a big area of focus for the NCAA. They are very concerned about some of the things they see happening in men's basketball. So don't, if you're a top-level recruit, if you're being recruited by a lot of schools, the NCAA is paying attention. Don't think that they're not. So if someone's offering to, hey, I can pay your expenses so you can go to a camp or so that you can go visit a school, something like that, accepting benefits from anyone but your family or your immediate family could jeopardize your eligibility. So you need to understand that if someone's offering to pay your way, to pay your expenses, to give you benefits, that can have an impact on your eligibility, and you need to make smart choices about the people that you have around you. The other thing in recruiting that you hear talked about a lot is, I've got a 4-year scholarship to the college I want to go to. There's no such thing. The NCAA does not allow coaches to award 4-year scholarships. They award 1-year scholarships. They can renew those. So a coach may tell you, I'm going to award you a scholarship. I'm going to recommend that be renewed every year while you're at our institution. That's okay. They can tell you that. But if they tell you, hey, we're signing you up for a 4-year scholarship, it's not the case. It can't happen. So make sure that you're educated about what you're being told. Make sure you know the questions to ask. Make sure that you understand what you're being offered. You know, if you have an NLI put in front of you, read it. Understand what the terms are. Understand what your obligations are. Understand what the school's obligations are. That's important. Third thing I want to mention, amateurism. A big issue in all sports, and particularly a big issue with respect to men's basketball. Again, the NCAA's rule is in order to play college basketball, you must be an amateur. That means you are not making money from the fact that you are a basketball player. So again, if someone is offering to pay you based on the fact that you're a basketball player, that can affect your amateurism. Someone's offering to pay you prize money or an appearance fee or something along those lines, that can affect your amateurism status. So be very aware of what you're accepting, what kind of people are involved in your process. If someone's offering to represent you, to contact schools on your behalf, to contact people on your behalf that's not your parents or your high school coach, be very, very aware of what's going on there. Because those people are often trying to function as agents. And agents is another big issue in men's basketball, and one that the NCAA is tracking very, very carefully. So be very alert to who's involved in the recruiting process with you, who's contacting coaches on your behalf, who's contacting colleges on your behalf. Fourth issue I want to talk about, drug use. The NCAA does not kid around about drug use. Their typical program is, at most institutions you go to, you're going to be tested by the NCAA, you're going to be tested by the conference that you're in, you're going to be tested by that institution. So you'll be tested year-round, probably multiple times during the course of a year, and a positive test has serious consequences. The NCAA level, a positive test is going to result in 1 year of ineligibility. So they do not kid around when it comes to drug testing. A second positive test is going to have even worse consequences. What you need to be aware of is, a lot of the positive tests that you see these days are people who have taken over-the-counter supplements that they bought at GNC or something like that. They're not well labeled, they're not well regulated, and they wind up having some sort of a banned substance in them. You guys have to be responsible for what you're putting in your bodies. You have to be aware of what you're taking, how it's going to affect you, whether or not that might have something that could trigger a positive drug test. It's not always clear from the label. So you have to take responsibility for what you're taking, because the fact that you didn't know it was in there is not going to be an excuse if you're tested by the NCAA. They're not going to accept that. So be very aware of that and be careful about it. Last thing I want to mention, gambling. The NCAA, again, does not kid around about gambling. It's a serious issue. It affects the integrity of the sport. I think people feel like it doesn't really come up that much. Maybe it's not really happening. It's something that we don't have to worry about in places like this. There was not, even a month ago, just some student athletes from an institution not far from here who pled guilty to gambling charges in federal court because they had been working with a bookie based out of Detroit. It does happen, and it does happen around here. They were helping the bookie to shave points in both basketball and football games. That stuff does happen. So be very aware if someone's approaching you about gambling issues. If you are gambling, stop. Stop now. I know a lot of people get in the habit because it makes it interesting. I bet you $10 that I can beat you one-on-one. You gotta curb that behavior now, because at the NCAA level, it's not tolerated. If you are found to have gambled on your sport or participated in gambling in your sport at the NCAA level, you're done. You will not be reinstated. If you're found to have gambled on other sports, again, can have significant effects on your eligibility. We're talking not just a couple of games, but a couple of years. So you want to make sure that you understand, if someone's asking you for information, hey, are you going to play this weekend? Is so-and-so going to play this weekend? The people who gamble always want that information. They want to know what's going on because that helps them decide how to place their bets. And so if people are asking you for information about your team, your injury status, who's going to play, you need to be careful about what information you're revealing. Because if you're providing information to someone who's using it to gamble, that can be a problem for you. So those are 5 things I want you to be aware of. Who can remember the first? What was number 1? Anyone? Academics. What was number 2? 2? What was number 2? Anyone know? Recruiting. Number 3. what was it? Amateurism. Number 4, drugs. Number 5, gambling. Those are the 5 things you guys need to keep in mind, okay? So good luck. Enjoy the rest of the camp. Thanks, guys.